Good evening, folks. There we go. It's 8 past 8 on Monday, the 29th of November. And as we do on a Monday, we reflect on what's been happening as far as South African professional football. The top league in the land, the DStv Premiership, has been on the go. Some other teams have obviously been on their rest of Africa excursions, shall we call them? We'll reflect on those later in the show. But I got a full house tonight as far as my panel is concerned. I'm joined by Kelvin Sosibo. We have John T. Mark in the house. And then also Obina Okafor has made a miraculous recovery within a week. I don't know what you're eating. Maybe you got Greg's egusi soup. I don't know. And that might have helped with things. But welcome back. Glad you in better health, sir. So, of course, reflecting on the weekend, that was some shock results. And also in the new cycle, coaches have been let go of. We'll touch on all those things in the hour that we have here together this evening. But let's start with one of the matches from the weekend. And that's, of course, one that cost a coach's job. You can argue that he was skating on thin ice this whole time, but Kaizer Chiefs dispatched of Swallows FC 3-1. And after that, subsequently, Swallows FC management got rid of everybody. They got rid of the baby and the bathwater this time around in coach Brendan Trutzer, and of course Simo Dladla, who was his understudy in his absence. So let's react to that. Kelvin Sosibo, are you surprised at all? The writing was on the wall, but at the same time, I watched that game and I saw a Swallows side that maybe, I don't know, just everyone seemed to be off on that pitch, and that's how Chiefs were able to capitalize and take all 3 points. Your reflections?
Yeah. Good evening to everybody that is watching our show. Yes, not so surprised about the sacking. I think it was a long time coming. They tried it by giving the coach a gardening leave, which was a reflection in terms of what they were trying to do. But overall, I think I'm just going to touch into a few pointers in terms of what transpired in the match. I think within Swallows, they lacked a lot of things in terms of their game model, which is try to play the way that they always play, make the pitch bigger, organize their rest defense, look to create overloads, effective on goal position, out in transition, exploit the disorganization, counter-attack, quick support, and then keep the ball. All those elements in that game were missing from them transitioning to their game that they've always played. And I felt that within that being in the couple of games that they've lost, these elements have been missing on their game plan, and it hasn't been executed at this point. And out of position, you never saw a Swallows that was compact, that had triggers in terms of when to press Kaizer Chiefs and not allow them space to play, as Chiefs are a team that loves to keep ball position. And also in their phase 1 and phase 2 of defending was poor in that regard as well. And communication across lines, this is where Chiefs exploited all those spaces and got their goals from. But again, now going into another point is looking at the coach. I must say that within the coach, there are 3 things that were missing from the word get-go in the second phase of the league. For me, which was the 3 C's. Number 1 was the concept. Number 2 was competence. And number 3, maybe you can say a little bit of in terms of the capital. When I spoke about concept, I'm talking about the identity, trying to find the team and embed that into players and having to understand how Morocco Swallows play. We saw that in glimpses in the last season. They gave us a picture in terms of what they're trying to do. And then now when we move into competence, again, I'm looking at it in terms of who is the person that is more accredited than Trutzer that was deployed to marshal the ship. I think that was missing in terms of the competent side. Should they have managed that and brought in a person that will always bounce ideas off from Trutzer and Trutzer bouncing ideas from that individual that they would have brought in, I think it was going to work. In terms of the capital side, it's for the team to be able to give a clear application in terms of their philosophy. So those were the points that I've picked up from this team, and which is, I feel for me, has failed them to this level.
John T. Mark, your thoughts as far as the management are concerned, because some people are looking at it saying, what was the benefit of the gardening leave? There was no benefit to the SEMO experiment. I mean, at some point, management has to kind of take a bit of responsibility for not having done this sooner. And, because whatever coach comes in would have, I'm sure, preferred to have a bit more time. But, they've kind of given up games for the same end conclusion, in essence, because I don't know. Maybe you have some insights as to what the thinking behind that gardening leave was. Was it to, make sure Brandon Truter was revived and refreshed with new ideas? But I mean, it doesn't seem to have been the case because they're still in the same predicament. And now Brendan's out, Simo's out, and they've given the coach that's coming in less matches in which to turn things around, I guess.
Yeah, it just seems like a bit like me, a shot in the dark, really, with what they've been doing. In terms of like, it's just like, let's put Brendan Truter on leave. Let's put Simo Gladden in charge. Oh, it's going worse. Let's bring Brendan back. Oh, it's still going terribly. Let's get rid of Brendan. There doesn't seem to have been much planning, much sort of. I mean, Swallows have had a terrible season. They haven't won a game since August, and it's just gone from bad to worse for them, rock bottom of the table. It's hard to see them really getting out of this. Whoever they bring in, I guess that, I saw the chairman on Twitter going on about how he wants to be like Jomo Sona, maybe run the club himself. I'm not sure. Maybe he must. Because if chairmen start behaving like that, then maybe they must. Maybe Chipe and Bengesi too must go to the sideline and start coaching the team. Just go one step further, because it just speaks of really poor management in terms of how you're running a club. Brendan Truter did really well last season. I think they lost one match, maybe two. Then, okay, they drew too many games, but for a first season back in the top flight, it was fantastic. This season, it's all gone completely wrong. It's hard to know exactly why. I mean, I'm sure that the coaches must take some responsibility, but there's clearly in management, there's been an issue with not quite knowing what to do. So they didn't know what to do. I mean, and this thing of putting coaches on leave, RE Brendan Truter, or suspension, RE Gavin Hunt, is just ludicrous. Either sack the coach, get another coach in, or don't sack the coach and let him coach the team. I mean, is it to get it? I never quite understand this. Is it so you don't have to pay them out on their contracts? It's like, it's just absurd to me that you do that. You kind of need to be committed one way or another. If you don't think the coach is working, you don't put him on leave or on suspension.
For sure.
You tell him, okay, sorry, this isn't working out. Let's move on to the next project. Otherwise, you're just throwing confusion into the works. And that's what happened when Simo Gladler was in charge. It went worse.
Yeah.
And then Brendan came back. But I mean, it wasn't exactly grounds for improvement. I don't know. If it wasn't going well in the first place, then what was Brennan going to do to come in now and suddenly change it around? If for some reason in the second season it wasn't working out as well as before. So I would say there's a lack of clarity of thought that's going on in some of these top flight clubs.
Oh, indeed. And I mean, we all know when you're in a relationship and you take a break, what tends to happen? Yeah, there we go. Obina, you're next. The coach was talking about how essentially he had told the players, obviously on his side that, I give them one option, two options, three options. I think it was quite a big line from him in his post-match, fourth and fifth options. So my question to you as someone who coaches, can players be overloaded and overcoached? Is there such a thing as being overcoached to the point where now, because you got so many things in your head, you may not be able to kind of, pick which one the coach wants you to do because there's 6 things he told us. Is there such a thing or should players be like sponges and be able to take up 5, 6 different game plans and ideas from their coach?
Look, I think I didn't hear when he said that, but then he said that I think that's where confusion. I think he's a confused man. You can't give a 3, 4, 5 option in one game. That's not possible. Again, football is an action reaction. It's an action reaction game where you play the way the opponent play, and you try to play the opponent tries to play. So you don't just come and impose your team and it goes wrong from the first minute to the second minute to the end minute, you know. So sometimes again, it's about the players, the quality you have. In a sense, it's about the quality you have, regardless whatsoever. The quality you have will show. Look, Swallows from the onset, I think they got it all wrong this season. Even I think they started getting it wrong by imposing Simo on the coach this season, bringing in Simo as an assistant. You know, I think that is where everything got wrong. And again, they did well last season. Instead of building from that last season, instead of building from that last season, they keep on changing, cutting and changing and everything. So with also coming in with another assistant, I just believe that the whole setup is just a mess, and it started showing. Then again, suspending Trusa, bringing in Simo. I think Simo did. I just think it's like somebody fixing something, and all of a sudden left it a bit to go out. Then somebody else comes and try to do his own way. You coming back, you have to start afresh again. So I think the whole setup, the whole team this season and Swallows from the management is just a mess. Again, identity. Coaches need to be identified by their own style. If you have a style and it worked for you last season, why change? And if there's anything like continuity, for me, I believe in continuity. I believe it works. So if you did well last season and you have an identity, you have a style that worked for you last season, the only thing you would have done this season is to still push it more into the players, the same players, just bring in one or two, But then these are coaches that maybe, I don't know Brendan much, and I think for the past 2 seasons, I'm not here. So if I always say, if I see a coach that things goes well this season, and again next season he starts struggling, somehow I'll say it's a second season syndrome, which normally, it goes in as a player or as a team. Right. So, but again, if it goes the way it goes this season, not even winning a match, then I think somehow questioning competency creeps in. So, but honestly, he's been unfortunate. Looking at the way the whole season went with the imposing of the assistant coach, I just think they disrupt the team also disrupt the guy's season. So it's just unfortunate for him.
Okay, very quickly from each of you, who do you think, if you had to take a wildest guess, could take over that job at Swallows? We know that Fanny Matida took training with the team, but I mean, there's quite a few, coaches available, the likes of Dylan Kerr, Kevin Johnson's around, Gavin Hunt is also back in the market. Out of all those candidates, maybe one I haven't even mentioned, Kelvin Sosibo, who do you think is someone who can go, considering the players and the personnel they have at Swallows, and get something out of that team?
I'm caught between two people, which is Kevin Johnson and is it Dylan Kerr? I think it's between those two for me, because already the foundation with Morocco Swallows has been set. I think the way that they're playing, both those coaches will be a fitting style for them, which is a coaches that likes building up from the back, a coach that likes to open up teams, have some creativity within, have a variation of a direct play and then interpassing of play. I think for me, I will go between the two. I will choose more of maybe a Kevin Johnson into this format, because I see a coach that can transform Morocco Swallows. He can really get them geared up with the right motivation coming in as a coach, because that's the fundamental that is missing with the Morocco Swallows right now. It's actually the mental side of the players, because they've been in a better position last year than they are today. So what's needed now is the mental aspect, being able to manage and coach those players very well. in them understanding that they can come up because they are a good bunch. Also within the integration of the players that have been signed. Again, it calls in for a coach that will have a good mix in terms of the experience and all and the players that are there already to blend them in and get the same result. Because we hardly saw a firing Hamaldin, which has went quiet. Yes, there's few players that have come up the blocks like Solomon, who's an exciting youngster that's plays on the wing. You still have a lone player from Morocco, Sundowns, who is also exciting on those positions. So I think for me, with Kevin Johnson, will be the coach that will give a good indication in terms of how Swallows needs to play and give them an identity and style. And then again, in terms of them having a coach that understands and the adaptation and moving and evolving with the game, having to understand the intensiveness of training session, because you find that mostly within the question that you posed to Obina, that in most coaches, while players cannot soak up so much pressure in a real game, is because sessions are not made. Most coaches are not making training sessions to be more match related, because the more intense they are, they help players in terms of overloading the brain so that you can find solution, you can adapt and manage space. Make the training sessions harder, makes it easy for you when you come into game day. So within that experience and the coach that they have that are available on the window, they can go for those two, Dylan Kerr and Kevin Johnson. With Gavin Hunt, not much convinced with him, because I think it's going to be more about playing direct football, which is, I think, the personality at Morocco Swallows does not really have much.
Okay, Obina, I mean, is it too soon for Gavin? I mean, to think about it, Swallows are bottom of the table. They've only managed to score 3 goals. It's the same amount that Gavin had, to his credit, as a coach before the last game, where Kurt added another goal. So they're on 4 goals, but they are literally, first and second place as far as, the worst records in the league for goal scoring. So I don't know. Gavin doesn't seem like a good fit. Would you agree with that?
Look, he might come in and things might change, the thing. But one thing for sure, I think for Gavin, I think it's time he needs to take a rest, just sit back, watch a bit, refresh himself. It's always good for coaches to do that after some string of bad results. Even with string of good results, it's always good after a team. Don't rush into another team, most especially coming to take up a team that somebody else has built, So I think with Gavin, he's a very good coach. Look, I can't take anything away from him. He's somebody that he can come in and do well with his own style, being direct. But I think for him, I think it's time he just go back, sit and watch to see what is going on and how the game is evolving right now. Looking at who will be the next coach there, look, I don't know. Depends on the identity, if there is one with Swallows. If they really know, sometimes we can talk about identity, we can talk about styling, easier said than done. People can say, but then when you look at the structure, does it tell you anything about it? I think announcing the coach would tell us, if they really have a direction. In a sense. So for me, I can't really point to say this is the coach. They will be able to announce, because South African football at the moment now is just something else.
Okay, and John T, if Ngozi came across your table as the editor, and there were names thrown in the article as to who would be the next coach at Swallows, who for you would be the most believable and most plausible?
Well, obviously Gavin, because of his links with Swallows and the fact that he's technically in limbo and available. But I don't know. Yeah, like with Gavin, it's kind of like, I'm not sure if it would work out a second time around or again for him. I think Kerr, of the names being thrown around here, I think Dylan Kerr I haven't heard his name linked directly to the job, but I think in terms of a quick fix, in terms of a guy who knows about getting teams out of relegation trouble and a guy who's got really good coaching acumen, I think Kerr is your man. He does tend to get in, sometimes not quite get on with the chairman at the club. So there's the possibility of it going pear-shaped too. But I would go probably with him. Kevin Johnson obviously has bags of experience and may relish the challenge after coming back from Egypt. Gordon Igesund is another name I've heard, but that might be going a bit too back into the heyday, bringing Gordon back.
Time machine, yeah.
He did a wonderful job at Swallows, but right now, is he a coach for the modern Swallows? One might say not. So it'll have to be. I think it has to be someone who can do a job for them. But the way the club's being run in the present, I wouldn't be surprised if Fanny Madida, who's taking charge of training, can come up with a few good results. They'll probably stick with him. I mean, and I don't think that would necessarily be a bad thing if he can get the team going, if he can prove himself again. I mean, he's coached in the top flight before. So maybe he can turn it around, and they are looking at giving him a chance. It's also like salaries. Guys like Gavin Hunt won't come cheap. Do Swallows have the money to pay the sort of salary that Gavin Hunt now will be demanding? Remember when he was at Swallows the first time around, he was kind of in the beginning stages of his career.
Yeah.
Now it's kind of a different story. Even though he would have probably taken a pay cut to go to Chipper, they would have paid him, I think, a fair amount. So there's that to take into account as well. And so I think, but if I was to pick one guy from my own personal opinion, I would probably say Kerr is a good idea. Okay. In terms of what he brings in the middle of a season, getting a team going, getting the players performing to their optimum so that they can get themselves out of the mess that they're in at the moment. Okay.
Well, Ndawo Mnyengeza says, have some faith, John T. They'll turn the corner at Dobsonville. And then Elton Kuto, whoever initiated the idea of putting coaches on leave, is killing their confidence in the dressing room. I guess, yeah, it does lead to confusion as far as the players as to who's really in charge. But speaking of being in charge, there's a new 3-man band making the rounds. This time you have to remove the C D and put a P. It doesn't quite work, but Parker, Billiat, and Dolly, that front three, the trident for Kaizer Chiefs, really, putting on a show at the moment. Yes, at the weekend they were helped by I guess a clumsy Swallows FC side, but they still did their jobs and punished them, Obina. So I mean, is this obviously the horizons of a good headache to have for the coach, considering the likes of Castro still available and Nurkovic is on the way back. But at this point in time, he must be loving what he's seeing with these 3 guys playing together.
Look, for me, I think it's something that I have to give credit to the coach, Baxter, and because these guys have been, except I think for Dolly, Billiard has been in Chiefs for so long now, and no coach has got, since he left Sundowns, no coach has even reproduced that from, giving him that space to play football. And I think on this program I've been talking about Baxter. I know the kind of coach he is. He's a coach that has a structure, a style, and up till now I don't think he has gotten to that. But look, give him credit for him to come to Chiefs, regardless how Chiefs has been destabilized for so long. To grind out results and also be building something, because. Look, without results, whatever you build, if you don't have results, there will be no confidence in the players. So now they're playing scrappy. The football is not near what I believe, it's supposed to be as Kaizer Chiefs. But again, for them to grind out results, for Billiard to come to the party, Dolly to come to the party, and also Parker. Look, people can be calling about, when I watch the game against Swallows, you can talk about Billiard, you can talk about Dolly, but you will never rule out Parker. The experience he brought into that team, the way he guides the team, he works himself out at the age he is. I think he's about 33, if I'm not mistaken, or 34, thereabout. You know, he's something that I believe most teams are lacking in terms of upfront, having a bunch of experienced player like him, you know. But again, Billiard, Dolly, they're doing very well. But I think credit should go to Baxter, you know, that has been trying, you know, to give them the platform to play football and enjoy football going forward, you know. But I think their style in terms of keeping possession needs to come together as quick as possible. But again, I give credit to them to grind out results, for Billiard to start scoring, you know, having 2 goals in this game. I just think it's amazing for them, you know. So,
Okay.
yeah, I think
I
it's
hear
good.
you. I hear you. I hear you. And then of course there was the forgotten man who got a run out at the weekend, John T. And Kieran Bacchus. There's been word and articles about him, you know, leaving the country and going back down under to go, you know, get more game time. But he definitely helped his chances at the weekend. And I guess in a way, maybe put some of that talk to rest.
Yeah, I mean, he performed well. I think there's been a lot of talk. We've heard it too of him wanting to go back to Australia. I know he grew up there. He was born in Durban, but moved at a young age to Australia. So perhaps there's friends and he misses family at home. And there's been talk throughout his Chiefs career of kind of a longing sometimes to go back, but he stuck around and yeah, he performed well. I think when given the opportunity in the absence of a few players, I think it speaks well of Chiefs kind of in terms of their squad depth that they can bring someone like that in and he can perform and they can still get the result, albeit against a really struggling Swallows team. But Chiefs generally, I think their form, and I think I agree that the Baxter needs credit because he has turned it around after the embarrassment of getting thumped 4-1 by Royal AM, which followed on from that 2-0 loss to Sundowns. You know, I think they've lost 1 in about 9 games. That was to Stellenbosch. And, you know, I think that they've picked up some really good results. They beat Supersport, obviously the Derby win, albeit you could say it was a bit fortunate with that last gasp penalty, but they got the win in the Derby, so they've built on that. And yeah, he's getting the best out of the veterans. Everybody thought Bernard Parker was dead and buried, not literally, but metaphorically. And he's bounced back with some seriously good displays. Billiard again, yeah, against Swallows, buried those 2 chances well. Dolly's been, I think, great since returning to full fitness. So Chiefs generally have been certainly picked up under Baxter, and considering how they struggled last season, it's been a nice turnaround for them to be second in the table, albeit quite a long way behind Mamelodi Sundowns, who look like they're kind of walking the league at the moment. But you know, Chiefs, I hope they can put a run together, and Baxter's got the experience of doing it before, so. Because it'll be good for the title race if they're up there. It's always better for a title race if Chiefs are somewhere up there, given their popularity and you know the kind of hype they bring.
Yeah.
So hopefully they can stick around. But yeah, they've certainly, in terms of, and yeah, they haven't. It's not been the most amazing football to watch in the world. I can't say that Baxter's sides over the years have ever produced the most amazing football, but it's effective and it wins football matches. And he's won trophies. He's got the trophies to prove it. So I think Chiefs are on the right path in terms of turning it around. You'd obviously like to see a little bit more youth coming through. In terms of people do complain about the age of the squad, and there is a point to that. But you know, I think pragmatically, especially after last season, they need Baxter kind of needed to get a foundation in there where they can start producing results. Then maybe he can start pulling in a few more youngsters as this, if the success continues.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think obviously, you know, that's the coach will bring in the youngsters when the times are going good. It's always tricky to try bring in youngsters when the team is not doing well, but hopefully there'll be more opportunities. Let's just touch on their defending quickly as far as Chiefs are concerned. Cavin, obviously not a clean sheet for Daniel Akpe after that really, really classy goal from Cheese Boy. But are you happy with the defensive application? Are you starting to see a solidity, a rigidity? I mean, one of the goals came from, you know, a gay being combative in that final third of Swallows and winning the ball back. What do you make of them defensively now?
Yeah, there are a couple of things that Chiefs did well in this game, which is one, when they're in position, they look to create, they look to keep position effectively. When they win the ball, they're always quick to actually to give support to the teammates, and always try and exploit the disorganization of the Morocco Swallows defense, counter attacks, and also keeping the ball in their defense. Out of position. What I saw that was happening on the game was they were more compact. They had triggers in terms of their presses. In their phase of defense, also their lines were trimmed down. There was not a lot of passes in between, playing between the lines from Morocco Swallows that we are used to, and also the communication across the lines, which is something that was very good to see. That's why Swallows really struggled to penetrate Chiefs, which Chiefs had most ball domination, and they always play on Swallows half. Yes, the goal that was scored by Lebohang Mokoena was, I think it was a lapse of concentration, and also the communication also break down there in terms of do they need to push, or do they need to actually to close down the ball carrier, which was a bit slower from their end. But overall, they had a very good game in terms of on transition, regaining position quickly and preventing a forward pass from Morocco Swallows, and regaining shape when they're when they're dispossessed of position, and also preparing for a press. It was something that was interesting. Yes, they are building, they are coming to the right pace. So I think from this result, they can be a motivated team that played with more determination, more belief. I think this is what the coach has instilled on those players, and especially the seniors that has led the team into this positive result.
That's a fair assessment right there, as far as that's concerned. And obviously, we're going to look at the other games as we proceed with the show. But I just want to touch on something that's come in with Nomonde Dondolo, who's agreeing and saying, there's no front three without Bacchus. I'm a Kosi fan. And so there's also Cole Alexander in the mix. So as far as depth, Chiefs are starting to develop it. And obviously they need their players to all kind of come in and be able to, just like a jigsaw puzzle, interlock and play and compensate when regulars aren't in the mix. That's always a coach's ideal situation. Let's move on to other results this weekend. And we saw a game down in KZN between Maritzburg and AmaZulu. They played out to 1-1 draw. Obina, Benni saying Usuthu are becoming the next Swallows as far as racking up the draws and maybe not closing out games. As a coach, obviously, I feel for Coach Trutter, because as we close that section, I was actually looking at that game and how, possession-wise, Swallows were on top, chances they were on top, passing they were on top, but they still lost that game in that fashion. And then you have Benni here who's saying that, as coaches also, there's not much more I can do than tell these players go out there and do the job. So he's quite frustrated, whether it be not being backed by his chairman or just the quality of the players that he's dealing with. But then he's now watching his team become, that team that can't see out a result.
Yeah, look, I think I watched that game very well, studied the game, analyzed the game. And I felt pity for Benni. I think he knows what he's complaining about. But for Swallows, look, possession in football means nothing when it's not directed to the right path. When the possession is not on positive for the team. Most especially, I always tell people, I say, moments of the game as a coach is what you coach. You have to coach the moments of the game, regardless whatsoever. The moment of football is attacking and defending, and when you attack, you have to get the ball behind the defender. And if you have to defend, the ball must not get behind your defender. So this is what you coach, regardless. I believe when I was still playing, there was a coach that always say, you coach anything, you play anything, is about scoring. You pass the ball side, you pass forward, you go here, you need to put the ball in the net. So but people need to understand, possession has to be direct. That is how Sundowns, when Sundowns keep possession, they punish you with it. They put it, the penetrating passes, the passes in between the lines, is what you see, the vertical passes. You don't see horizontal passes and passing, keeping possession for keeping sake. Looking at the game between Maritzburg and AmaZulu, I think AmaZulu had more chances to bury that game even before Maritzburg could get the equalizer. They did well. They were attacking. This young boy on the side, Kalinga, was just a terror on Maritzburg United defenders. So I just believe Benni knows what he's crying about. They would have finished the game even first half. Coming into second half, they were pressing high. They were putting Maritzburg United on the back foot. But yeah, the moment if you could not capitalize and you allow it too late, I think those are the times Maritzburg capitalized on just that one ball. And yes, it was a goal, very brilliant shot, very brilliant goal from a brilliant player. Has been there trying to find space, and AmaZulu gave him the space and he punished them. So I just know that Benni needs to get the player now, to start finishing off teams when they get teams on the back foot. And I believe that's what he's crying about now.
Okay, I mean, John T, looking at what they have ahead, of obviously they're not doing as well as they would have liked to be at this stage of the season, sitting in 8th position after 8 games. The run of form kind of inconsistent, and of course, there's still the prospect of more African games. Do you kind of see them keeping a pace with everybody, or perhaps falling away under all of that pressure?
But I think, they're already mid-table. They're already 8th, so they're already sort of away a little bit from the title race, if you like. So I think I see them sort of struggling a bit to keep pace with the Champions League as well, to play the group stages that they did so well to qualify for. That's obviously taken a lot out of them, and there is definitely some factor in that, I think, in them not quite performing at the same level in the league that they were last season. And you understand Benni McCarthy's frustration. Sometimes I feel like he should just take a pause and a deep breath before he speaks to the media, though, because the way he criticizes his players in the media sometimes is a little bit over the top. I just think he should if they just cool down a bit, because if you start slagging off your players or telling your players aren't up to it and all this, it gets into the dressing room. The players start going, do we really want to play for this guy anymore? He's annoying us now. You got the feeling that maybe that happened at Cape Town City. And he's come in now and he's got AmaZulu obviously up to second in the table last season, qualified them for the Champions League, and they've got good players at AmaZulu. They've bought players as well. They've bought very good players there, like Mamelo. They've got all sorts of good players that have come in and done well. So they obviously, everybody wants a better goal scorer. They're a bit unlucky against Maritzburg. That guy Sukuna just has a habit of popping up with world-class goals in the final minutes of games. It's amazing. But I just think he was having a go at the referee after that game, but he needs to kind of maybe just refocus himself on his team and what they can do to improve, and maybe criticizing his players that much is not an effective tactic in terms of getting his team to perform. I don't think they'll challenge the likes of Sundowns. I'm not sure anyone will challenge Sundowns, but I don't think they'll challenge at the top this season. I think there's too much pending continental football, and then the squad does need improvement, I think, if they're going to compete on 2 fronts in 2022. So I would say no. In answer to your question, I'm not sure I see them staying at the top or in the Champions League positions next season.
Okay. And Cavin, do you think his calls are justified? He says he was robbed a penalty. Is that did you see the same thing as Benedict Saul McCarthy?
No, wasn't of the penalty. I think what you should do is you create your own chances and you punish them. Waiting for the ref to give you a Christmas this early is not going to happen in this league. Remember that the referees have been through under
Oh.
scrutiny in terms of their decision that they've been making. And I'm sure now they're trying to up their game and not try and give soft calls.
But that
Fair
was a
enough.
penalty.
Fair enough. It was a penalty.
It was a penalty.
Nah. Too soft.
Huh?
Too soft.
Look, yes, you can say it's soft, but I don't think it was soft because he went directly to the ankle. He didn't even go for the ball. If you see the sword was direct on the ankle. So, but yeah, unfortunate for them. But like Sosimo said, you have to create your chances and score them. So, but yeah, I understand he's crying for the penalty.
Yeah, I know. Yeah,
Okay.
it makes a lot of sense in terms of when I saw it also on the replay, because we also have the advantage of a replay. I think that the momentum carried over from the player, and then also the mistiming from Dengane was terrible.
Yeah.
And the ref was there. I'm sure that it was just too hesitant to give a soft penalty, but it
Mhm,
was
yeah.
the look of things when you're seeing it from a replay, because there was no intention of trying to play for the ball. He went for the man straight. So again, you have to look at the intent. Was the player wanting to play the ball? It was a deliberate action. For me, I think he was caught for speed. By the time he took the first player on and by playing the combination pass, Dengane saw he couldn't get it. So the last thing was to do just to block that play. So yes, I can't change my mind after seeing the replay that it was a penalty.
Oh, okay. There we go. I guess, yeah, the referees need that kind of help as well to be able to make those kinds of calls a lot more accurately. Let's keep it moving. TS Galaxy picked up a point against Cape Town City, who were the away side in a game where, I guess Cape Town City as well. It's a lot of coaches seem to be going through this thing, Obina, of, I guess as a coach, it's not strategic, as we've pointed out, to be calling out your players. But, in this one, Cape Town City, with the talent they have, with the approach they take, when you watch them play against teams like Mamelodi Sundowns, this was a game there for the taking. But they concede a little too many goals. And that was the case again at the weekend. But, once again, the coach comes out and maybe just throws shade at one of his players without naming them directly. But yeah, I mean, what do you make of this current spate of individual errors being brought up by coaches as reasons for them not, successfully completing the mission, shall we say?
I think also when you hear this kind of post-match analysis from coaches, then you just say these are coaches that don't take pressure easily. They don't take pressure. They don't absorb pressure themselves. They let the pressure that maybe the pressure that is coming to them, they let it out to the players. And again, pointing out like football is not an individual sport. Football is a collective sport. And again, being collective sports, sometimes the mistake that I, as a coach, might cause in terms of my selection, in terms of my style, can just easily frustrate the players the way they play. So you coming out to pinpoint a particular player to say, no, he's this, he's that, I think it's all wrong. These are where, it's a team. Whatever that happens is the team. But yes, when we're in the dressing room, that is where you can say, okay, fine, you, Mr. A, you did this, Mr. B, you did this, you broke our style, you let us down, this, that. But again, outside in the picture, in the public, you need to protect your players. I believe these are what good coaches should do, should learn how to do it. Don't let your frustration out, and that is why sometimes with this post-match analysis, you need to allow a day before you could even say something. If you want to talk, just talk generally about football, not even analyzing your team. Generally, the game, this is how it goes. Fine, we were so unlucky. But coming out, pinpointing, because the day it goes well, no, I'm the best coach. But if it didn't go well, I know that player is very bad. Coaches should learn also to take blame themselves. If I pick, if I as a coach pick 7 players to start, it means that I trust them to do the job. If anything happens to them, I should take the blame.
How do you take the blame, though? How does the coach take the blame for a defensive player just not doing, the basics and his job? I mean, this has been a lot in the media now about people just doing their job.
First of all, his job, how many defenders do you have in the team? Why do you go for that guy? Why the particular guy? Because you know what he can do. He has shown you that he can do it. He goes there fine. Football is always like that sometimes. Unlucky, you get this, but it doesn't mean you have to crucify him. You have to say, no, I know what he can do. It was not a good day for him today. But again, what happens? He will not do the same mistake tomorrow. You understand? But you coming out to bring him out to say that he's the cause while the whole 10 players didn't play well because of this guy, or this one guy let the whole team down. I don't know how that player will come out and play for you tomorrow.
Interesting. What's that?
Two things that I've picked up from that game. Yes, the coach went to a player in that manner, but it's also important also to look at the player's mentality. He's in the right frame of mind because his competition is somebody that is doing well, which is what's this guy now again? Playing the left back. Mashiro is doing absolutely well. So when you're given it a chance compared to the person that is actually keeping the jersey, you're trying to do too much, and you doing too much makes you to make a lot of mistakes. So I think again, it has to come to players in terms of them trying to better themselves and never be content with their position, and knowing that when you play, yes, you might be changed because based on tactics. But at the end of the day, once a player that is doing well for the team, and you trying to fight so hard to be in the team, it will make you to make more mistakes. So it goes back again to character in terms of he knows the player, he knows what he can deliver. As Obina has alluded to that fact that he knows all these players. So the reason why I fielded him and gave him the match day at that time, he should have known in the state of mind that it has been. Because how do you see that? You see through during training before the match.
I mean, John T, there's a case to be made here for, maybe a player who wasn't 100% for this game. I mean, he's just come back from a long-term injury, and, in essence, I feel that maybe makes it a little bit worse that the coach knows the context, that this is a player who's not, playing at his peak just yet, and then guns for him after what is essentially a game that's helping him back to recovery and match fitness at 100%.
I think generally for coaches, I find the better policy, unless you're really trying to make some sort of point, which you can see if a player's like constantly performing badly, or so I suppose the coach knows the player, so knows which player responds better to criticism and which doesn't. But I mean, in public generally, I mean, in front of the media, you see top coaches, they'll generally say they'll generally be nice about the player to the cameras, and then I'm sure if they've got something to say to the player, they'll say it to them in the dressing room. They'll be like, look, that was unacceptable, you can't do that. But you don't do it. I think in the heat of the moment, maybe they get carried away a bit. Similarly, when I'm speaking about Benni McCarthy, I think sometimes they get a bit carried away, and it's a bit like, you've got to manage the dressing room, and you don't want pissed off players not performing. At the same time, it's a balancing act, because you want the player, you want to get your message across.
Reaction.
I don't think doing it in the media in the way that it was done is really a progressive way of doing it. Cape Town City they've been very inconsistent this season, and I think Eric Tinkler has did well to get them to the final of the MTN 8. They've had some good results along the way. They've had some sort of random performances, like going 4-0 up against Arrows and then being hauled back to almost drawing the game. So it's been a bit like mentally they haven't quite, and maybe that's what Tinkler's touched you on. They sometimes seem to lose their concentration, for sure. Because I mean, you're 4-0 up in a game. You can never lose it or come that close to drawing that game. It's some sort of concentration thing that obviously he's trying to get across But I think, it can be managed a bit better. But yeah, I think it's not a great season for either of those teams at the moment. TS Galaxy or Cape Town City, they kind of got to pull out some wins somewhere along the line. Galaxy actually more than City. But yeah, there's I would say, manage the player with a bit more care. He's coming back from injuries that had been out for a long time. Maybe try and understand that before you make an outburst like that, for sure.
Yeah, no, well, that's Eric's coaching style, but congrats, I guess, to TS Galaxy as well, because like John T's pointed out, they actually do need the points more, and we're able to get one in the 89th minute. But when you're a side like Cape Town City, just trying to be there or thereabouts with the other guys that you have the capabilities to be up against, and that's in the top 4 or 5 positions. Obviously, dropping 2 points is not ideal so late in the game, but you have to play until the final whistle, and that's the nature of football. I mean, we all live for that last minute equalizer, unless of course you're a coach. Let's keep it moving as far as results are concerned from the weekend. Royal AM heaping a bit more misery on Stellenbosch. I don't know. I mean, people were saying that Stellies, it looked like it was going to be that season where, they are like, I guess, Swallows FC last season. But, 2 back-to-back losses doesn't make them a bad team, Obina. But clearly something is not 100% right at this point in time with Stellies. Have you managed to pick up what's maybe changed in the last 2 encounters, and maybe what's, looking different about them? And the chips not falling their way.
I think also I'll just link Stellenbosch to the same thing with AmaZulu, not capitalizing and finishing when they are in play, when they have a team at the back. They have Royal AM, they have the chances to score first, to draw the first blood against Royal AM. And they lost their chances, and Royal AM got a chance and they finished. So I think this is also the story of Stellenbosch, where these past 2 games they just losing goals. They're losing the ball in front of goals. They try as much as possible to get the ball to the third half of the opponent, but again, to finish is a big problem for them in these past 2 games. But for me, I don't think they have to press any panic button at the moment, because they're doing very well. They're playing very well. They just need to start putting the ball at the back of the net. So for me, I don't think it's necessary for them to start panicking. If they start panicking now, then they'll start putting things, wrong foot in so many decisions, that they will have to make, or start cutting and changing and all those things, and this will just start frustrating the team reading. But I just believe they're just going through that patch of not scoring at the moment. But I just believe they were the better team against Royal AM.
No, for sure. That may be the case, but I guess they're no slouches themselves, Royal AM, are they, John T? I mean, that victory made them leapfrog Stellies in the table. They've also been a surprise package, not only because, obviously we know the players are mainly the now defunct Bloemfontein Celtic players, and they always were up for a good game and giving you a hard time, but just all the disruption that's happened in the season, and they're still able to go out there and, sneak these results that keep them in very close proximity of those, African adventure places.
Yeah, I mean, they've done well. Whatever you think of the style of the owner chucking money around on the pitch, and and then new signings like Mama Joy, whatever you think about that. Where did she move for the money? I mean, I'll leave that up to other people to decide. But good luck to her. I hope it works out. Kamza just left the building. Whatever you think of Royal AM, the way they run, they've done well, and it's another good win for them, to get themselves up the table again. Potsane, another former Bloemfontein Celtic man, getting the goal. I think that that they've shown that they're up there to compete, and then they're doing it really well. As for Stellenbosch, I wouldn't be too concerned about Stellenbosch, like you said. I mean, since they beat Chiefs, they haven't won a game, but I think they also threw away a 2-goal lead against AmaZulu. That might have hit them a bit because they were well up in that game, should really have won that, sealed that game out. That might have hit their confidence. Pirates decided to turn up and finally score some goals the other day against them. Pirates have always had that capability. They've just been missing everything until the last week or so. So that obviously would have deflated them a bit more. And then they've only lost this game narrowly. I think if they look overall at how their season's gone, to have 21 points and be a point behind Kaizer Chiefs, who are in second, I think they can be very happy with that. They were never really expected to be that high up the table in the first place. So I think once they consolidate, if they can reflect a bit and just focus maybe on what they were doing in the early part of the season, and refocus, then they can get back to their best. But yeah, I think both those teams.
It's tricky because their next game is against Sundowns. But yeah,
well,
so
yeah,
maybe three
never
losses
know.
on the trot.
You never know. Yeah, I think Sundowns are going to win the league, but you never know. Sundowns. It's very hard to go an entire season without losing a single match. So maybe it's Stellenbosch that'll spring this.
That'll be the ones. Yeah, there we go. Because it has been now 2 losses. Prior to that, it was 2 draws. So who knows? Maybe this is the beginning of 2 wins on the trot for the team. Let's keep it moving to other results as well. That saw Golden Arrows in a high-scoring game against Baroka. 5 goals in total. Now, Baroka haven't won a game in a while. But for Golden Arrows and Coach Siema, I guess Baroka just seems to be the same old problems, Calvin Sosibo. They swap out the coaches, but it's like revolving doors at the same place. And one came up from the MDC, and there's rumors that they all related to the chairman. What's
No, I mean, I'm just happy for Golden Arrows. What's happening in Polokwane, I don't want to be part of that because that's a whole mess altogether. But overall, I think a huge shift needs to be, a huge change needs to happen there at Baroka. There are available coaches instead of them being taking coaches up and down. If they're really serious about keeping their status, I think this is the time now where they really need to look at people that can come in and then make some changes, get people that are competent enough in order to steer to move towards the direction of what the chairman wants, because it's not easy to lose a 60 million rand franchise like this and you're trying to play soft, because apparently these people, these 2 coaches may be related somehow. So I think maybe the exchange or the filtering of message is the same ideology, it's the same philosophy that they're trying to apply. Not much that could be said about the same Baroka that we saw last season, but I see a lot of positive in terms of when it comes to the Golden Arrow side, which is a couple of things that they've done correctly in terms of when they're out of position, which is now they're starting to become the team that we know that they regain position quickly. A team that is will always now is trying to regain shape as well, preparing also their press and also enjoying the ball position, preventing also forward passes from the opposition team. I think this game, while it gave us a lot of goals, is because of in position. We saw an Arrows that exploited the disorganized Baroka, quick support in terms of their own teammates to get into the final third, keeping ball position in a most effective way, which is when they have the ball, keep position in either to dribble, protect, or pass to the teammate. So I think those were some of the highlights that I took from the game, and Siema might be slowly moving towards the right direction in terms of how Arrows is supposed to be playing. With Baroka, not much could be said because I think they fell short in terms of their compactness, not knowing when to press, also having a first phase and a second phase of defense where they were non-existent, and the communication lines also broke down a lot, and not being able to keep ball position, and their rest defense was terrible. And looking in terms of overload, they had none of that. Effective ball position, they didn't even try that much. That's why Arrows dominated.
What's going on?
There we go. I think I had a technical issue. I'm back. Had to do a battery change real quick. Let's move on now, focusing on another game that happened at the weekend. And of course, that was Mamelodi Sundowns in action against Sekhukhune. 2-0, the final score there. Even though Mamelodi Sundowns were down to 10 men at some stage of the game through Dennis Onyango getting a straight red card, fouling as the last man. But I mean, at the end of the day, it is what it is. They've been able to get all 3 points. Sekhukhune put up a valiant attempt. But Obina, you can't beat a team like Sundowns, so well coached and just know how to go about grinding out results, even when they don't do it, in the ideal circumstances, I guess, under the ideal circumstances with having a man sent off.
No attempt was done by Sekhukhune.
When I was listening to the post-match analysis of Sekhukhune, I think that's where the coach got it all wrong, to say that he gave them respect. I think people need to understand what giving a team respect means. For me to give you respect, it means I have to push you. I have to press you. I don't give you a chance to play. I don't allow you. I can't say, first of all, the game strategy he said was to go back on the so they play on a low low block to study Sundowns. You can study teams like Duane in the middle of the park, distributing the ball, having Shalini running onto you in and out. I just believe they gave them too much respect. I thought Sekhukhune would have just played their normal game, rush the way they played against Pirates, to rush them the first half, try to force Sundowns not to keep possession. Because the moment you allow Sundowns to start dictating the passes, dictating the pace, these are guys that they know where to put the ball at every time. If you give them space, they don't keep possession for fun. That's one thing I study with them. I look at the boys, they just want to play the ball behind the defenders. They want to put the ball behind. The penetrating passes when they're building up from the back, the way they vertically they put the ball into the middle, from the middle to the strikers. You see the striker, Sololenko, the way he runs, protects the ball, so the leader on the space. Look, you can't play Sundowns. I've said it here before. You can't play Sundowns on a low defense, trying to play on a counter. You cannot play Sundowns like that. Sundowns, you have to come out and play football. Try to match them. Try to press them high. If you lose the ball, that is when you go back and just start to organize. Try to create a block where you don't give them that chance to play penetrative into the bylines. I just believe that Sekhukhune got their game plan wrong against Sundowns, and it gave Sundowns all the space to dictate the game. Dictate the rhythm, the passes, the style of how the game was to play. They didn't give Sekhukhune any chance to play football, until they got that red card, yes. And the second half, Sekhukhune, I just believe the second half they came out a bit to play football after they conceded. But then it was too late for them. And also the red card, I thought they would have capitalized, but the time was even short for them to even do anything. But look, I just believe Sekhukhune gave Sundowns too much respect in that match.
No, fair enough. And I guess, on the side of Mamelodi Sundowns, Jonty, looking at them and obviously their title charge, but there has been a bit of a chink sport, and I guess finally after 11 games conceding 2 goals. I mean, they've been so resolute as far as their form in the league is concerned, but at that rate, if they keep it up, they might have, if I do my math right, funny maths, quick maths, 6 goals scored all season. It's still impressive, but they were breached twice in the latter stages of the game by SuperSport, which sometimes you can attribute to a lack of concentration and just the latter stages of the game. But that probably won't please the coaching staff, the Three Wise Men.
I think they were breached because Dennis Onyango, who's usually so reliable, just blinked basically and dropped the first shot at the feet of. Sorry, I've momentarily forgotten who scored the first goal, but he dropped the straight at his feet. Yeah. And then Teboho Mokoena's free kick, which he also should have saved. So there was a bit of an aberration there. No, it was way out, and it wasn't even that fast paced for me. I think Onyango just made another bit of a howler. Don't know. I mean, he's a great keeper. He's probably the best keeper, arguably the best keeper in the PSL, and you're going to make mistakes. I'd certainly say that was more of a howler than the red card, because Mozele Busa sold him down the proverbial river there. It was it was a horrible back pass, and then his option was basically to let the guy go past him and probably score, and it will bring him down and take a red card for the team, which is what he did, and he'll miss the next couple of games. But those were the two options. I mean, you can watch it on a replay and say, okay, well, maybe Sundowns had a couple of cover defenders there and he could have just let him go past and maybe he wouldn't have scored anyway. But, at full speed, he probably thought, let me take the guy down. Or maybe he didn't think at all. He just, reflex reacted, took the guy down, got a red card. That wasn't really his fault. That was some dawdling at the back. Even Rulani Mokoena said afterwards, like, he was upset with the way his team had kept possession there at the back. They should have advanced the ball forward instead of faffing around. And I mean,
I agree. There were two goals
Rulani
up,
put
so
it
he could have
far more
let it go
eloquently
past.
than I just did, but he wasn't his fault.
No, sure.
And I don't think there's too many chinks in that Sundowns armory that we think there is. I mean, to be fair, SuperSport did put them under a decent amount of pressure, unlike Sekakuna. SuperSport created opportunities and were pressing, and that's maybe also the pressure they put on Sundowns caused Onyango perhaps to lose a bit of concentration. But I think that in the end of the day, Sundowns are still in an incredibly strong position. They still don't really look like losing enough games. Other teams don't really look, maybe Chiefs if they can get something going, maybe Pirates if they can get something going, but it doesn't really look like anyone is going to be able to push them. And they've got quite a long time now until the Champions League because of the slight change in structure, so they can really build a healthy lead up until that all kicks off. So I can see Sundowns romping this league still, whatever vulnerability they showed at the back against SuperSport.
Yeah, no, there we go. I mean, obviously now the big push for them will be, as far as the Champions League is concerned, going full throttle in that competition, Obina. This is why I guess you're seeing this opportunity for them to kind of create this distance between them and the chasing pack, so that they can at least just kind of, because obviously that schedule is a bit hectic. As much as they have the resources they have, you're still going to have a lot of football being played all the time, and you need your squad to do a job. But how important is it to have that insurance policy of this gap of points that they're building up at the moment?
Look, I think that's what Sundowns has been doing for the past how many seasons, when they start very well and they start piling points, yes, 1 or 2 seasons ago, they didn't start, they started on a low, but they still, come up when it matters. But now getting the points, I just believe that I'm just looking at teams that have given up. I think every team has already given up against Sundowns. I'm listening to a coach telling you that I think Brandon was saying a 1.2 million player.
No, he was referring to the Chiefs players, though. He was referring to Billiat and Dolly.
I look at coaches and just like, you've already given up. These are what teams are doing against Sundowns. Coming to play Sundowns, they're already giving up, when they look at the players, when they look at the coaches. Already with Sundowns, I'm telling you, look, the quality they have with the players and also the quality of experience they have in the technical team. How they do that, having 3 good coaches, heading that team, and the team is doing very well without confusion. I just think they're doing a very good job. But then the timing now, I just think they're winning the league. This is the kind of way Joe said when he came to Premier League. started the season from the onset before teams could realize what is going on. He's already gone, and the way Sundowns are picking up points now, if they do this until after December, and if they continue like this, I think after December they would have won the league.
Okay, well, yeah, let's see what happens. I mean, we know how it is. Unfortunately, we know how this movie ends. Some will say, but
but look,
there's a long way still to go.
With them, the quality they have, compared to the quality in the league totally. I don't see Sundowns losing to anyone at the moment, except I'm just looking at Kaizer Chiefs, the way Kaizer Chiefs are coming, and also Pirates. Look, I won't take out anything from Pirates, but Sundowns, I don't see them losing to anyone.
There we go. Speaking of Pirates, reflecting quickly on their result, they were able to get a 2-0 victory on the road. Goals from Tseho Mabaso and Makaringe there just at the top of each half, 44th minute and the 90th. They were able to get a 2-0 victory, which sets them up really well for the home leg. And of course, the other team that was in action was Marumo Gallants. Not so lucky their side. They lost to the legendary TP Mazembe. So they might be able to turn that around. It was only a 1-goal deficit, but with Gallants, I don't know, let's see. They could still, I mean, they've pulled out some surprising results in this competition already, so why not? Anything can happen in football. Quickly reflecting on the midweek fixtures, it's Marumo Gallants in action against TS Galaxy, and then it's Pirates taking on Baroka. I think, considering Baroka in the disarray, but I don't know. It's a tricky one to call, Jonty, isn't it? Because you can say Baroka in disarray, but you always know the players when it's, teams like this, they raise their game. So I actually, as much as they're in good form, Pirates, and I guess maybe this will be a true test, can they take advantage of the disarray at Baroka?
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously that they've had to make their way back from Liberia. And they've got the second leg of that game to qualify for the group stages on the Sunday. But they are, as you said, in what looks a very comfortable position, 2-0 up from the away leg. You usually wouldn't see the home team messing up after that. I can see Pirates going through fairly comfortably on Sunday. And yeah, on paper, they should beat Baroka. As you said, they've picked up some form. Hotto got a couple of goals the other week. Nice to see Mabaso back in the goals over the weekend. So you'd hope, not hope, but you'd think, if you're a Pirates fan, you'd think that Pirates can turn it around, will keep turning it around and keep picking up points. And Baroka are struggling, as you said. So, but it's this league, you just don't know. And as you said, Baroka might turn up and put up a show because they're playing Pirates, one of the big sides, and suddenly decide to play. Yeah, you just don't know. But if I was to put a bet on, I would bet on Pirates winning. I think they will.
I think that's the clever bet to make. Cavin, as far as the battle at the bottom of the table, Gallants in action against TS Galaxy. Obviously, for Gallants, it's an opportunity to play that game in hand and actually go clear of Galaxy by 2 points. Is that something you think might happen? How do you see that one? I think that one's a little harder to call, isn't it?
It's an easy one to call. Reason being is Marumo Gallants had traveled to play out, and then you're looking at in terms of how are they well rested. Is the coach doing enough in terms of preparing the players for the next match? With the team, you find a team that was well rested, that were at home, so they would bring more energy, and then it will work against your Marumo Gallants in terms of their travel and in terms of how they plan. But for TX Galaxy, I fashioned them to get a point or 3 out of this one because they will be a fresher team, more rejuvenated, more rested. Those who had niggling injuries would have recovered by now. So you're going to find a fresh team. So it's going to be between a team that is well rested and a team that is a little bit fatigued. Yes, they can pull it, they can fashion in terms of the first half. Maybe they can put up a show, but come second half, this is when you see the legs start going from the team that is.
Okay, we'll see how that one pans out. And I'll leave this last question or statement for Obina. You can tell me if you agree, Obina. If you agree, tell me why. If you don't, tell me why not. PSL is a farmers league. Absolutely no competition in this league, says Stink Mina. They're watching via the YouTube. PSL is a farmers league. Absolutely no competition in this league.
Lies.
Where's the
I
competition?
don't
Where's the competition, Calvin?
Say,
Where's the competition?
there is competition. We just have
Between
to wait
who?
and see. It's not yet 30 games. Not yet 30 games. There's still a lot that can change from this league. So to call it a farmers league, I think that's a very unfair statement to say to be disrespectful to other teams. I think as you see Chiefs that the position that they've been and where they are today, then maybe you might try and change the statement because a lot can still change. And remember,
no,
most teams are
I think
disadvantaged.
I wanted to go the same route. I wanted to say the same thing Sasibo is saying, but then hearing Sasibo saying that it's disrespect to other teams or, call it, I don't think it's disrespect. I think it's high time also. It's good that they call it a farmers league, regardless whatever. It's high
Oh,
time.
it's not
teams
good.
start-
No, let's listen to the
hear
final
me out,
point.
what
Yeah.
I'm saying. I'm saying
Yeah.
it's high time teams start spending, teams start putting back the money they're getting back into the team in terms of getting quality. Sundowns, what they've done is the structure, the quality they've put in, and the money they've got, they've put back into the team. That is why they're doing so well. The structure they've put in place in terms of hiring coaches, not just tell me something. Tomorrow you tell me Baroka. But what is Baroka? You hire your in-law, you hire your brother as a coach, and you still want them to beat Sundowns, and you expect people to call them to tell you that they're going to compete against Sundowns. Look, I don't think, but I know there's competition. There is, and the competition is coming. Come second round, I think you see competition. But again, it's high time teams start putting back what they're getting back into the quality. Getting quality into the team.
Nazo, okay, we're gonna end it on that note. Thank you very much, Abina. Kelvin, I can see the gears are turning in your head, but we're right out of time. You're gonna have to go FaceTime him or something afterwards and pick it up
Good
there.
notes for him.
He's done a whole assignment for you in the time that you were giving that answer. By my we add, we were here on Zoom. He showed me an empty page and he was like, I'm gonna fill it by the time Obina's done, and that's exactly what he did. He's got the answers for you. You guys will catch up off air. Thank you to everybody who tuned in tonight. We're done and dusted for this last Monday of November. Wishing you to all be safe out there. Omicron is showing everybody flames. Do what you feel is best. I'm not here to tell you to go do whatever you want to do. I'm vaccinated. Do what you think is best for you. But look after yourself and your loved ones. And we'll catch up in a week's time. Big ups, John T. Good luck with the move. That's just context for people wondering why he was sitting in the dark. It's because he's moving and evidently packed his lights first, right?
Yeah, the lights, I don't know where they are. Yeah,
there we go. Look above you. Look above you.
Well, there's a light. No, there's a light there, but it's too. It's not. Yeah, this is not. This is not ideal lighting.
It's not ideal. It's not the ring lights that you get from Front Runner.
Calvin, expertise in my house. Yeah.
Well, Calvin, thank you so much to you, brother. Obina, thanks to you too. Fidel behind the scenes for pulling the strings, and to everybody.